Welcome to Reading with Robin. I am thrilled this morning to be chatting with, on Pub Day, Morra Aarons-Mele is the founder of the award-winning social impact agency Women Online. She hosts Forbes' podcast, Hiding in the Bathroom, and created the influencer network, The Mission List. There are just so many accolades, from lecturing at Yale Women's Campaign School, the Harvard Kennedy School, World Economic Forum for Young Global Leaders. She's a graduate of Brown University from right here in Rhode Island and the Harvard Kennedy Business School. I love that you live in your pajamas in Boston. Welcome to the show, Morra.
Thanks, Robin. It's great to be here.
Thank you. There's nothing quite like having a situation where pajamas are completely acceptable and celebrated.
I always say I work in bed.
What kind of setup do you have? See, that's the tricky thing. I would love to be able to do that more, but then there are back issues. Do you have like a whole support system there, or you just can like sort of sit up straight?
I sit up straight. I do have a lot of neck and jaw issues, though, so I only work in bed a little bit of the time. Most of the time, I do have this really cool setup in my home office with a remote-controlled standing desk and a big monitor, and that's all like ergo tricked out. And so I rotate because, you know, I feel like I need to move during the day location, otherwise I get itchy.
Yeah, no, and I have a friend who has one of those kinds of setups, and I was like blown away. I said, if you saw where I do my work, I know it's so bad. But this book, Hiding in the Bathroom, is just out. People will not miss it. It's a beautifully tiled cover, and it's an introvert roadmap to getting out there when you'd rather stay home. I know you've got some events lined up, and people can visit hidinginthebathroom.com. And I haven't looked yet, but are any of them going to be in like a fabulous bathroom?
No, they're all going to be out in public, but I did shoot my book trailer, which is on my site, hidinginthebathroom.com, at Waterworks, which is this extremely upscale, beautiful bathroom company in New York City, and they graciously lent us their showroom, so it was really fun.
I have to check. I didn't see that, but I was thinking of some lovely bathrooms where you could absolutely host a nice amount of people.
Totally. There are, especially at fancy hotels. Those are my favorites.
Sure. Absolutely. And there is something in this book for everyone. And we have, I think you said 5 copies to give away? Which is incredibly, I'm glad I got that right, which is incredibly generous. So people can visit the Reading with Robin Facebook page, and we'll be able to comment there to win. And definitely visit Morra's page. Is it your personal Facebook page, or is there a Hiding in the Bathroom one?
You can visit my personal Facebook page, which is just my name, Morra Aarons-Mele.
Okay.
Yeah, you can, or you can find me on Twitter. I love Twitter.
I love Twitter, too. You can find more on Twitter. And you're on Instagram as well?
I am, but less so because my whole thing is, I'm pretty private. I like Twitter because Twitter is very newsy and political, and I'm a political junkie. So that's where I get my fix in these hard times of news. But Instagram, I know everyone loves Instagram, but for me, it feels very personal, and my life is just not that fabulous. And so I love to lurk on Instagram, but I'm not very active on it. Yeah, there's something for everybody. So wherever you're most comfortable, that's really what being our authentic selves is what's so. Well, that's right, and I'm a huge believer. Like you have to be online, especially if you're a hermit. If you want to work at home in your PJs, then the trade-off, because no matter what you do, whether you work for a company and you want to build your reputation and professional credibility, or you're a freelancer, you have a small business like I do, you've got to build your online professional brand. So using some sort of online platform, you don't have to use everyone, but whether you choose to blog, whether you choose to contribute to other people's websites or sites that are relevant in your field, whether you tweet, whether you just even have a great LinkedIn page or a YouTube page, you need to do something online to further that credibility and presence so that you can hide out in your PJs.
It all makes perfect sense, and you do have to be comfortable. I really enjoy Twitter as well. I feel like it's almost, out of nowhere, you just sort of are stating whatever you'd like to say, and then you can pull back and see if people respond to it. It's almost just like you can constantly interrupt the flow. It's a really
it's chaos.
It is chaos. Well, managed chaos. I don't even know how managed it is. But visit hidinginthebathroom.com for more information and see where Morra will be doing events as the book is just coming out. And there, I mean, introvert, extrovert, wherever you are, there is so much information. This book is just so good. I love this book. I remember when it arrived, of course, the cover caught my eye, but then I was thinking of all of the people, you know, you either are an introvert or you know one, and it just makes so much sense, but there's so many tips and strategies and common sense. You know, just the way that it's laid out is just so enjoyable to read.
Thank
you. And noteworthy. You're welcome. I have tons of notes all over this book, and I just have been just really soaking it up. When did you first notice this about yourself? I mean, what are clues and what are misconceptions about what an introvert means?
I think there's so many. I mean, it's funny. I was on a radio show the other day, and the host said to me, "You're not an introvert. I mean, you're making eye contact. You're talking to me." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" I mean, it's not like introverts are weird, you know? I mean,
I know. There's misconceptions. Yeah.
There's so many misconceptions. All it means is that we are people who draw strength and happiness and security from time to recharge and be by ourselves. You know, we are not the people who are going to rush out maybe and party every night. Walking into new social situations requires just more preparation, you know, for us. And that's actually probably about half the population, right? It's totally normal, and it gives us so many skills. Another thing I layer on in the book, though, which is different than being an introvert, is having social anxiety. And I have social anxiety. I have a lot of anxieties, but social anxiety is sort of a learned behavior. You know, an introvert, it's a character trait. You're born with it. Social anxiety is something we may learn either through bad experiences in childhood or whatever, where we actually feel scared to go into a situation that will demand interaction of us that we are not comfortable with us. And this could be, again, a classic example of walking into a networking event or a cocktail party, or even, you know, picking up the phone to make a call that you're nervous about, or even sending an email can pull out that anticipatory social anxiety. So I talk about that too, because, you know, that's a big piece of being a bathroom hider. And again, you can overcome it. You really can if you're smart and strategic.
Well, you say anxiety can be a gift. So, how so, and what are some of the learned strategies and what could be applicable in many different ways, and, you know, sort of being mindful of all this, how to best prepare and go out and conquer the world, or however you want to go out into the world.
That's right, because I'm not a big world conqueror. I'm about conquering tiny little pieces if you want, but not every day. You know, I think that I don't diminish anxiety because it's very serious, but if you're one of the many, many millions of Americans who lives with some sort of generalized anxiety or has anxiety in certain situations, for example, I have terrible flying anxiety, a lot of us do. We live in very anxiety-provoking times, certainly. You know, if you are in negotiation with your anxiety, you can manage it and you can actually turn it into a strength. If you're anxious, you are attentive. You're actually probably tuned in. You know what triggers you, and you know how to build infrastructure and scaffolding in your life to support yourself. And this is actually a wonderful tool for building a career that you can sustain in the long term, whether it means building in a work environment that doesn't stress you out overly, building in breaks for yourself, knowing how to manage your time and the pace of your life. These skills actually are incredible, and they also make you a really good manager. I interviewed a wonderful woman named Christina Wallace in my book, who has a pretty severe anxiety disorder, and when she starts a new job, she emails her boss and her team and tells them about it. She tells them about the triggers that will make her have an anxiety attack, and she encourages open dialogue. It's so incredibly brave, but it's also a wonderful management tool. I mean, imagine a world where you could be honest with your team, right? And you could really...
And I think someone will hold it against you.
That's right, and own your emotions as a strength and tune in to what other people are thinking. I mean, also, what an incredible sales tool, right? I always say that people with introverts and people who have anxiety, people who are sort of very attuned to situations around them are really great salespeople.
Yeah, the best, I can attest. And I do think that in general, sort of being open with, wouldn't it be lovely, to be open with things that might just be so much easier to just be straight about it and then see, people probably will connect, relate, have some compassion, and it would just be so much more productive. And you talk about having wise and confident people around you and noticing, I guess like you say, building your infrastructure. And that's so vital to having, because this is all about, it's all about a lot of things, but about business. And you also talk about not needing to be on 24/7, and that's a misconception, that you have to be out there all the time and to be successful.
That's right. It doesn't mean you can't be. It doesn't mean that you cannot be out there. I mean, I think that's key. It's all about compromise. Right now, for example, I'm promoting a book. I have to be out there a lot more than I'm comfortable with, and I don't like it. And I have every intention of, when this period is over, hiding for a little bit. I think it's about being strategic. I talk to a lot of people who feel a pressure to go to professional conferences, for example. A lot of those are a waste of time. You need to look back at the past couple of years of your business life, at the events you went to, and ask yourself, what was actually worth it? Where did I meet people who created valuable connections? What was either an exercise in, ego stroking or just spending money and time for no purpose? You can say no if you're strategic about what you say yes to. The other thing I talk about, and this is especially important for people who are sort of hermits or introverts and like to have a lot of alone time, is having that strong relationship of super connectors, having those people in your life who are sort of out there for you and who you can tap into and be a good friend to and be a good professional colleague to. And they will build your network for you. I have a great quote from someone who says, I don't know why I bother going out. The same 10 people have introduced me to all of my new clients. And it's really true.
Well, I know that there are people who are naturally connectors. That's one of my superpowers. And it's just
I can see that, Robin.
Thank you. Well, it is something that brings me great joy, and it's just such a natural thing where I'm thinking about people who might work well together or have similar interests. And I don't think of it as anything. It's sort of what I do in my daily day. And so my daily day, that's ridiculous for someone who's a word person. In my day. So I never thought about sometimes when people will be so thankful about it that it's something that they weren't comfortable doing. It's just the way I like to bring people together, but that goes back to forming groups like that in high school or college or whatever. But I do feel that need to be real supercharged, and I would think that wouldn't be the way that people would perceive me. I actually was reading this thinking, maybe I'm an introvert. Nobody would, people think of what an introvert or an extrovert is, but I really do feel the energy drained from just too much out there sometimes. So, but I think
we all do. I mean, again, this stuff isn't binary, but I think for someone like you who hosts so many events and, if you actually seek to bring people together, that's probably a sign you're an extrovert. On the other hand, my favorite thing is to help people find jobs. I'm really good at it, but I can do that from my home screen, right? I can do that via email. So I think it's also about finding a way that you can put your relational skills to use in a way that makes you comfortable. I mean, I like podcasting, for example, because I can be having a very intimate conversation with someone, but I'm in my own space.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'm an extra introvert, an extrovert.
Ambivert.
Maybe I need to. Oh, is that what Ambivert alert? That's probably me. And I'm speaking with Morra Aarons-Mele. Her book, Hiding in the Bathroom, is just out today. It is an introvert's roadmap to getting out there when you'd rather stay home. And visit her site at hidinginthebathroom.com. I cannot recommend this book enough for everyone, and we have 5 copies to give away, so you can message me or go on a Facebook page, and I'll be putting up this post with the rules for the giveaway. In the intro it says, network your way to the top, always say yes, never eat lunch alone, get out there. And what do you say to those sort of things? Well, you say, I call bullshit.
I say bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because you hear those phrases, and I don't know about you, but I mean, to me, it's like being raised with the Nike slogan, just do it. I mean, they're so endemic in our culture and in our consciousness. And those slogans and the idea that if you're successful, you would never want to eat lunch alone is so pervasive. We live in a culture where the idea of the garrulous, extroverted leader, frankly, who's usually a white man in a suit, right, who's talking, who's commanding the room, is so pervasive that it's really, really hard if you're not that in any way. To think of yourself as a leader and to think about how you can claim that power, especially if your work demands, public speaking or sales or networking or business development or having an online presence. And frankly, most jobs do these days, right?
Sure.
So how do I cultivate that power and that network and those relationships if I'm not, that garrulous guy talking in front of the room, if I'm not schmoozing clients? It's really, really challenging. But the great news is that, frankly, our digital age empowers people who have other kinds of really strong relational skills to build strong networks. And if you're smart and you can use those amazing introverted skills to listen and sell like yourself and actually tune into what people want, as a salesperson, you're going to be even stronger.
It is amazing what, there's always good and bad and with all of this technology and everything, but it is such a powerful thing to be able to, like you say, tap into that and be in your own space. And I know you talk in the book about setting boundaries for phone time and family, and how do you manage that when we could really be online, not 24/7, of course, but
well, we could
set aside that time. Well, yeah, we could.
I think that boundaries are really important, and in the book, I like to differentiate between boundaries and limits, and this is something I learned from my psychologist friend, Rebecca Harley. A boundary is that feeling you get when something is wrong, right? So people talk about their personal boundaries being crossed. If someone gets too close to you and it makes you feel creepy, or if your boss is always emailing you late at night and expecting a response, and that makes you upset, it makes you anxious, it makes you feel like, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong? That's a boundary being crossed, right? You need to take that seriously. If you're sitting in an open plan office situation and all day long people are bothering you and you feel like you can't concentrate, you can't get work done, that's a boundary being crossed, and it's actually preventing you from doing good work. So you need to set limits. Limits are the physical barrier, if you will. So maybe it's trying to curtail your email hours or trying to train your boss so that she doesn't email you late at night. She might be emailing you late at night because that's when she likes the email. It probably has nothing to do with you. I mean, that's where open conversation is a really good thing, right? Think about it. I tell a great story in a book about a boss who, Saturday morning was her time to clear out her inbox. So she would send all these emails to her team on Saturday morning, and one of her teammates who was coaching soccer for his kids would check his phone and get all these emails from his boss on Saturday morning, and his morning would be ruined. And it wasn't until they actually had a conversation and learned either side of the story that they realized this is so silly, this is a problem we can solve. The boss could schedule her emails so she could send them, but they could not arrive until Monday morning, and the soccer dad could coach his game. No, I mean, setting limits is a really healthy thing, and it is about doing your best work. And so I encourage people to sort of tune in to whether their boundaries are being crossed. And we all have different boundaries. I mean, for me, I'm such an introvert. I like to be at home. I like to be alone. But I don't mind when my clients email me at all hours. It doesn't bother me, frankly. It's something that is not a boundary crosser for me. However, if I had to get up and go to an office and be present every day with them, that would be too much. And that's also, in listening to you and talking about open dialogue, that also assumes that the person is in a situation where that, on paper, that sounds great. And then in actual practice of being able to have open dialogue, in the best way, because, everybody works differently. I also like to send them at night, but I don't expect anyone to answer me. I send them when I want. To me, it's like a telephone rings,
I may not be in the mood to chat, so your voicemail, an email comes, but I understand if you were getting them on a Saturday and you're coaching, that would feel could feel
That's
like
not the perception, especially if it's someone senior to you, right, or a client.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Right. But I mean, again, if we act like grown-ups and we set ground rules, it's not a big deal. And I know that sounds idealistic, right? I understand that people might be listening.
I'm thinking of a specific situation where I wish that were the case for somebody else. But yeah. So what do you do if it is a senior position? If you're not in that position, how do you suggest going about setting boundaries?
Well, I actually believe you can set boundaries, and I think that if you're not in the position to ask your boss why she emails you every Saturday morning, you could go to your teammates. You could go to one of her colleagues. I mean, you can think about ways around it, because teams that have this kind of dialogue actually perform better. And you need to sort of take ownership, because the alternative is that you're going to suffer. You're going to be stressed out. You're going to want to quit your job. You're going to put that stress into your body, and it actually might cause you pain, and then your company's going to end up paying for it anyway. So I think that part of it is realizing that you have the right. You have the right to talk about what works for you and what's going to create your best work, and to learn from your teammates, and to know that this will actually make everyone work better. It's actually about productivity. It's not about, being a snowflake and, being soft. It's actually about strength.
It sounds very strong, and you sound like the ideal person. I think everybody listening would be like, wait, we want to all work with Morra. I know I would. And I just love this I don't know, there's so many pearls in this book, and it's called Hiding in the Bathroom, An Introvert's Roadmap to Getting Out There When You'd Rather Stay at Home. It is brilliant in so many ways that you just must read it yourself. I have 5 copies to share, but you also want to buy them for your friends. This is such a great gift for, really anyone. I haven't been this moved by a bit of nonfiction in a very long time. Before I let you go, one of my favorite parts of this book, because you just don't see it very many places, is having a knipple. I've only had one other knipple conversation on Reading with Robin. It was with Stephen Gaines about his memoir, and I was cracking up. So explain, I know you have to go. I'm crossing your boundaries for what a knipple is and how this relates to the book, just quickly. And people. I love
that you brought this up. This is, of course, Yiddish, a Yiddish term back from the shtetls. My family were from the shtetls in what is now Russia, but of course wasn't back then, and. My mother taught me this term a long time ago, and a knipple is what women used to do back in the shtetl. They would sew in some coins or some jewels, something with value, into maybe the hem of their skirt, so that if there was a pogrom, if they had to flee, if their husband left them or their husband died, they would have some money that nobody knew about, but it would be theirs so they could survive. And I'm a realist, I'm a huge feminist. I love my husband. We have a wonderful marriage. He has a knipple too. But I ground everything in this book in time and money, because let's face it, time and money are what make things tick. And so all of my fabulous advice is worth nothing if you can't earn enough money to support it and to support your lifestyle. So we deal very realistically in the book about sort of figuring out the nut. What do you need to earn, whether you're working for someone else or you're working on your own? How can you manage it? And then how do you integrate control over your time with the money that you have to have? And part of that is having money of your own. Money gives you freedom. And for me, I love to work hard, because not only does it help me earn money for my family, but it gives me flexibility. The money that I can earn buys me time, and that is worth a lot of money to me. And so I introduced the concept of a knipple just to say that, women or men, it's about having financial power, knowing how much money you need, being in control of your money and not being scared of money, which a lot of us are, which will buy you the time and the flexibility to live the life that you want.
it all just makes so much sense, and I love that you included that in the book.
Well,
makes
thank you.
So relatable. Yeah, we had a whole discussion with my friends, and like somebody was calling it something else. I'm like, no, it's knipple.
It's knipple.
From my great grandmother. I mean, this has been passed down through the generations. And on the knipple note, I will end, and I want to thank you so much, Morra. It's Morra Aarons-Mele, Hiding in the Bathroom.
Oh, thanks, Robin.
Oh, my pleasure. Visit hidinginthebathroom.com for events, and we'll be speaking more about this book. It's just fabulous, and it's out today. Do not miss it. Thank you so much, Morra.
Thank you, Robin. Be well.